Welcome to Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, a show dedicated to Critical Role over on the Geek and Sundry channel. This week, you're seeing art by two amazing artists. The current art is from Bronwyn Moore, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. Also known as Sootttea, that's Soottea, over on the Twits. And later, you'll be seeing a piece from Bill Washington, also known as Bill Wash, over on Twitter. If you like to have your art featured here, please let any of the show's hosts know via Twitter, and we'll do our best to get it posted as you see here. I'm Akiva, found on Twitter at AKIVADAPHYDD. It's Akiva David. And joining me today is my excellent friend, fellow critter, and an amazing DM. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Kalia, otherwise known as Cosmic Candy on Twitter, and Akiva is actually one of my players, as he mentioned, in the Thursday night game that I run just before Critical Role, Desert Winds. So, yeah.
Indeed, and you can catch that over on Critter D&D, I believe, is the channel.
Twitch.tv/CrittersDND, or you can find them on Twitter at CrittersRPG.
And if you happen to miss the live show, it will also be posted here on this YouTube channel.
As well as the VOD over on
Twitch as well.
Yep.
But it'll be posted here every Friday in case, the VOD time period has passed and you want to catch up on old episodes. So just the quick little introduction conversation. What is your favorite or most memorable critical success moment?
I might have to think on this one for a minute.
Okay. Well, in my particular case, I was once playing a game with a physics professor as our GM. And we were battling I believe it was a red dragon. And we rushed into this fight. It was not a fight we were supposed to win. But I got a natural 20 in setting up a device that I had wanted to use in order to, damage this dragon. So, he was like, okay, so you got a natural 20. What exactly did you do? I had set up a trebuchet with what turned out to be a 3,000-pound piece of, granite boulder.
Okay.
And he was like, oh god, the math on this is going to take a while. So I sat there and went through and did the math on it. And it turns out I did something like 7,000 hit points of damage.
Nice.
Because of the size and weight of this boulder. So not only did it end up one-shotting that red dragon, but with the dragon's hoard, we were able to purchase a keep. And from the granite boulder, we salvaged enough for a nice granite countertop.
That's pretty awesome. My favorite critical success moment. I don't know that I have a personal one here. And when Annika killed the Skeleton King, that was on a crit, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So I think we're gonna take that from the more recent archives, and I'm gonna say that was pretty awesome. What she did is the Desert Winds. They were fighting the Skeleton King, which was like the first major boss that they've kind of taken on, and she critted on her success, which was also the "How do you want to do this?" moment. So she said that she went jumping up into the air and drove her sword down through the top of the skeleton king right through its plate armor all the way inside. And this was actually, a large creature, so she fit inside the armor. And when she came out of it, I had described that the armor basically split in half, and she was when the armor split in half, she was there with her sword, in both hands, driven into the ground, kind of like on one knee, and she like raised her head up and looked up, and then the party saw that this skeleton king had been vanquished. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Indeed, total anime moment.
Yeah, it was great.
So today we're talking about episode 43, and again, I'm not going to be attempting at prophesizing a title for this, but there are no holds barred on spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, pause now, go back to the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel, watch the video of the day, or video on demand rather, and catch up before you listen.
Or you can watch this as a preview of what's to come, and that way you don't miss important bits.
That too. That too. But either way, don't forget to like and subscribe before leaving the channel so that you can catch us every Monday and keep up with the goings on. So to start out the episode, they're still at the Slayer's Take. They've just settled in. And of course, it's the same day they arrived. And they,
Yep.
They sit down and decide that they need to gather some information. In doing so, Sam reminds Percy, or rather Scanlan reminds Percy that the black powder merchant lives here. And the way they did that, it's obvious we critters have been screaming to see Victor again.
Yes, we have.
Um, but
He's probably my favorite NPC.
Oh,
He
absolutely,
really is.
absolutely, and the fact that during I can't remember the name of the episode, but during his little DM talks, he mentions that he literally made Victor up on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and he even admitted that at Wizard World Portland
Yes.
this weekend, too. He said that was a completely on-the-fly and random thing, based on what the players had come up with. I've had to do that stuff with Desert Winds, too, where you guys are like, we want to go talk to these cats.
Yeah, the cats, and I'm sure that when I went to go talk to the alchemist, you made him up on the fly as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It just we players do some crazy things sometimes, but
But
they
I mean,
turn
that's
out for
what
the
makes this
best.
game great. That's what makes
Indeed,
this game great. So yeah, Victor was an on the fly character, but he is an amazing on the fly character, and
absolutely.
I
We'll
think
get more into him later though.
yeah, yeah, and I think he's going to turn into a Gilmore type character for us.
Maybe, but
Gratuitous fan service on occasion.
indeed. But they also identified the need to talk to Lady Kima, and if I remember correctly, it was Vex that identified that they needed more potions.
Yeah,
So they decided to go potion shopping before doing pretty much anything else. But before
but
they,
but they wanted to do that because they knew that Kima would be bored of the potion shopping.
oh, of course, of course. But before they get a chance to do that, as they're leaving the Slayer's Take, in walks Vanessa, and behind her, Kasha and Zara.
Woohoo!
Yay! um, in case you haven't seen it, the guests for the episode were Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who plays Zara, and Will Friedle. I'll learn English eventually. I
But
promise.
you're draconic again, impeccable as always.
Will Friedle, who plays Kasha, showed up, and Marisha immediately drops into the awkward Keyleth mode,
Yep.
uh, and much teasing from Vex and everybody in the know. But they had just returned from hunting a doppelganger. Vex leads into the conversation, into the whole dragon problem, and immediately Vanessa seems a little reluctant to just go out and lend aid. Um,
Well,
said
and I mean, she says, her reasoning is, well, surely with something that's this much of a threat, somebody will pay handsomely to have it removed.
absolutely.
And I think Vex was kind of like,
I hope you
I
don't
think
expect
Vex was
us
kind
to.
of going, yeah, yeah, you don't expect us to. And two, I think Vex was also thinking, I think you're missing the point here, Vanessa. I think if we let this go unchecked, there won't be anybody to pay for it.
Yes,
So,
but yeah, the conversation finally comes around to Vanessa stating, "Well, if you find a weakness for him, ask around and find some allies, then we'll talk again." The point is driven home enough that Vanessa admits, really this is beyond just her, so they need to go speak to Osysa, who
mhm.
is who, if you don't remember, is the Sphinx that lives in the underground temple under the Slayer's Take.
Right, and we knew that this was coming. I mean, we
Oh
called
yeah.
this a while back. A couple, what, two, like our first episode, I think we were talking about this.
Oh yes. First or second episode. But either way, I mean, this was pretty much a given. The Sphinx essentially lives in the temple of Ioun, who is a goddess of open knowledge, sort of the patron goddess of the or matron goddess of the internet.
Yes.
um, Matt made a point that it was rather curious that the temple was hidden, considering how open Ioun is about information sharing and that sort of thing. And that sort of I couldn't go back and find the exact episode, um, but I believe Matt said something similar to that last time, and I think it's a side quest hook that he might have when things aren't quite so dire.
Yeah, see, I don't remember specifically what they were talking about with Osysa the first time.
It was more of an introduction, getting them into the Slayer's Take. Um, but at the same time, there were little hints that there could be more to it. But again, no, the players haven't gone on with it or focused in on it. Um, but knowing that it is a temple to Ioun, Vex phrases the questions that she has at least, as far as or focusing in on knowledge of anything that can help, which then turns up the little prophecy as Osysa meditates and communes, and you know informs the party of the relics of divergence or
The
vestiges of
vestiges, yep, the
yeah.
vestiges of divergence.
Well, the first line of it simply refers to the relics of divergence. Um, but then in the last line refers to them as vestiges of divergence. So everybody just from there on went with vestiges.
Well, I thought that when the way that I saw that was that Osysa was um at that point she was kind of an oracle. She came kind of out of her own personality and became an oracle for a second, and then called them the vestiges of divergence, and then came back to herself and she said, "Well, I don't know. Um,
Quite what that
I
means,
am
but
just the channel for this information. I
yeah,
don't know, really where to find them or anything."
yeah. Um, but it turns out that they were armaments used in the last reset, or at the Sparks. Basically, The sparks being the transition between each age. Um, the first the first spark being the end of the first age when the gods went to war with the elemental titans, uh, and then again when there was a war amongst the gods, which brought them into the current age. But we'll get into that more later, um, as that is explained in more detail by a different character.
Yep.
Osysa does say that there are none within her view, which sort of prompts Keyleth into asking help or asking for help directly. Um, Osysa sort of agrees with Vanessa and reveals that Vasselheim has, for lack of a better way of putting it, only survived by turtling, by closing everything off and focusing on their own defense. Um, However, Osysa does offer some assistance in the form of directing Vox Machina to talk to her mate, who lives out in the wastes near Western.
Right. And the near the Frostfall Mountains.
Yes,
Or
I believe it is a Frostfall. But
yeah,
yeah,
because I think the D&D 5 is Frostmere. So yeah, I think it's Frostfall.
indeed. Um, just gives a general location. Doesn't give her mate's name or anything, saying that that's part of the quest. If he gives his name, that's on him. But finding him is the first step of their quest. Um,
And she also told Vox Machina, please understand that this is what my kind does. We have to basically prove that you are worthy,
Indeed,
and if you fail to do this, that means that you weren't worthy to do it in the first place. So I mean, she didn't say as much, but reading through the monster manual, that's essentially what it says for either the Andro or the Gyno Sphinx.
yes.
um
I mean, regardless, just finding out their name, they tend to give you riddles, to give you hints to get there. They don't usually just come straight out and say it.
right.
So, in a sense, Osysa is a little bit of a cultural abnormality among sphinxes, but I think it works really well with the way things have been set up. Um, Vax does try to uh, tempt. Is that the right word?
I
Osysa.
don't know that he's not trying to tempt her, but he definitely is trying to say, hey, Osisa, do you want to spread your influence to Iman if we can save it? He's not trying to tempt her, but he's generally saying, the Slayer's take has done such a great service for the people of Vasselheim and for this continent. If we can save Iman, would you be willing to set up something similar there?
The way I took that particular portion of the conversation, I viewed it as if she had said, "I would love to do so," then Vax would have, responded with, "Well, then we need your help." Sort of a prompting her into doing something in order to expand the influence. But instead, Osysa replies with, "Get some relics and some allies, and maybe."
Right. I mean, she says that we need I need assurances that you are capable of, that I'm capable of your trust and everything, and by the first step in doing that is going to find my mate, getting these relics, et cetera, et cetera, and then we'll know that you are up to the task.
Indeed. Since they were there, um, Vex decides to ask for some assistance with the Whitestone Orb of Destruction issue. Um,
Who in Osisa gets mad?
yes, the exact phrasing of the request goes something a little like, Do you know about the Keeper of Secrets, Vecna? At
And then
which
Osysa growls. Never
snarls was the
speak that
exact.
name here.
Indeed. Um, but, after a little explanation, Osysa goes ahead and uh, looks towards Whitestone, sees a corrupted Temple of Ioun, a little bit mournfully.
Which was the ziggurat. You know,
Yes.
we figured out was the ziggurat.
The ziggurat was stolen, as Osysa put it. And then her vision is almost pulled as she follows the pain and suffering and anger that was going on. And we learn that Draconia has fallen.
Yep. And what did she? I'm trying to remember the specific phrasing that Mercer said. Something to the effect of a great army has been sundered.
I don't have the exact phrasing in my notes, but yeah, that sounds really close to what he said. Um, the the thing that got me was we know that Orion, who played Tiberius from Draconia, um, has left the show, obviously. And as amicable as everybody has been about it, I can't help but wonder if that was yeah, there were some bridges burned. We're not going to talk about it. Here's the end of it.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, probably not a good
I
idea.
don't want to get into it. I'm going to be Switzerland in this whole thing.
A good idea, but I wanted to bring it up because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are going to be talking about it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, Orion did post something to his channel that seemed to be a rebuttal to what Matt had done here, and I watched it, but I, I don't
yeah.
know.
So, this is more along the lines of us, yeah, we're aware of those possibilities. Um, but I have to agree with Kalia. We're going to play Switzerland and not get into it. It's not something that's really our business anyway.
Exactly.
Um, but from looking so far from her area of influence, um, Osysa is weakened or even injured by doing so. But she does promise to talk to her fellow brethren of Ioun for an answer or any knowledge of what can be done about the orbit destruction. Gishaw steps forward and heals her uh, in what I feel is a nice show of inner nobility within him.
Right.
Um, for those that may have missed the original um, guest
Slayer's take
episode,
episodes.
yeah, um, Keshaw was rather abrasive, but he gives his backstory a little bit there, and
Yeah.
it makes sense why he is, but he still struggles to maintain that inner nobility, and this was a good character moment for him.
And I know I'm jumping ahead with this, but Kima mentions him later. Oh well, you're dark and brooding, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be. It's been a bad day. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, pretty much. Um, so after that little uh, encounter, Zara puts her support in with Vox Machina, while Kashaw, for reasons of his backstory, is a little reluctant to do so, but he still does in the end because of what he hints at as some sort of mini story between Kashaw and Zara, where Zara apparently saved his life.
Right. And I mean his reluctance to join too gave me probably one of my favorite quotes of the entire episode. The world is always burning, baby, or always ending.
Always ending, baby. Yep.
Yeah. The world is always ending, baby.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, it always is. But unless somebody steps up, it's never going to be saved.
Right.
Which is what, Zara essentially uses. But during that little aside, um, Kashaw mentions, well, we need to hide like half the gold. Or no, that's a later aside, but still within the same few minutes. We need to hide the half the gold. Zara says, "Fuck that," and
They might
Vex,
need it.
yeah, and Vex pops up with, "I can read your lips," as they start talking about the twins, and they finish off with my favorite little bit in that little exchange. Didn't I tell you she was hot? And Zara replies, "She is indeed." And Marisha goes back to hiding behind her book.
Yep. And we also got a really bad Scanlan pun too.
Oh yeah,
Um, when they were talking about when they were talking about all of this, um, Scanlan goes, "She gave us so much to Sphinx about," which
yeah.
had me laughing, but
It had me groaning.
it was so unexpected.
But no, and Vex brought up, what about the relics and stuff that Tiberius was looking for, but nobody really seemed convinced that they were related to the Vestiges.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
they
don't know
were.
if they were. I don't know if they were connected or not. Um, because the Tiberius backstory said, well, I mean, they could be because I think his backstory says ancient relics of power, that have been long forgotten. So, I mean, maybe it is that's what he was looking for, was the vestiges of divergence. But the plan was that if he got those, he was going to turn them back into his father in Draconia. He was
Yes,
not going to be keeping them, and he was trying, by finding these things, he was trying to advance his own power within Draconia so that he would be recognized as, a mature adult or whatever at that point.
agreed. But at the same time, one of the relics that was mentioned was that Wheel of Mending, and that doesn't really scream Vestige to me.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know. I'm holding my assessment on that until either Matt provides some additional information, or we gather some additional intel from watching future episodes.
I mean, we can speculate about it a lot. I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm by no means saying this is correct. Again, this is me theorizing. What if that mending wheel can mend a lot more than just physical objects? They just haven't learned how to unlock it yet. What if it can mend ethereal things? Time rifts, etc., etc.
That is a good point. It is possible. Um, but like I said, until we get more information one way or the other, we can't. It's just speculation. We can't say for
Right,
certain.
right.
Um,
So yeah, Vox Machina wasn't convinced. I wasn't entirely convinced. I actually missed that on my first two watchings, but I did finally catch it on my last one. Um, and and I don't know that I was convinced either that the stuff that Tiberius was looking for were any of these vestiges of divergence.
Indeed.
I do know though that Matt had a list of all of those items that Tiberius was looking for, and I think there was an episode where Tiberius had the opportunity to find one of those things and it slipped past him.
I remember 2 instances, but it might have been this, 2 opportunities at the same item, but they were focused elsewhere at that point in time.
Mhm.
So, missed story hooks.
So Vox Machina goes shopping.
Well, before they leave, they do try to get potions and stuff out of the take, but they only get 3, and kind of annoy Vanessa at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, Vanessa, and Vanessa's stance was valid. I mean, you guys have been out doing the heroes thing for a while. We pay you so that you can buy this stuff on your
Yes.
own.
Yes.
Very, very valid point. We're not coddling you anymore. You're grown ass adults.
So, Vox Machina goes out and goes shopping, and they run into. Well,
Oh,
before they get there.
a sneaky salesman.
But before they get there, there's a little aside between Vex and Vax that I want to touch on.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. It was my duty to remind you.
Yes. So, Vex and Vax, sort of lag behind just a little bit. And Vex notices that Vax is kind of submissive in the way he's handling Kashaw being there. Um,
Right.
and I thought it was rather interesting as well. At one point in my notes, I actually have what is going on between Keyleth and Vax. They're like so standoffish with each other at the moment. Vex, just bluntly says, "I thought you were interested. I mean, I can kill him if you want." She
And
doesn't. She doesn't. I believe her exact phrasing is, "I can make him disappear."
right, right.
Vax, admits that he is interested, but no, Kashaw is
Don't
fine.
off him.
Yeah,
He's like, I've got no beef with him.
and then at the end, hilarious moment number 2. Oh, I get it. She's so beautiful,
And
and
and he says, and so are you, but you're my sister. What am I supposed to do with that? You're so weird, and you just go storming off.
yes. Oh, that was hilarious. Nice little bit of jealousy there on, the side of Vex. It's just, I love seeing that the character growth. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, they finally get to the potion shop,
I
and
don't
there's
know that it's a shop. I think it's actually just a cart. I think he's got like a cart, and then he's got a tent that he can go into and get some of his stuff. But he's like
well,
what you
yeah,
would consider the classic snake oil salesman. So he's got like a little podium where he's hawking his wares from, but it's not actually a shop per se.
true. Um, and Vex actually calls him out on that. But I just love that little showdown. When Vax says, after Grog tries to take the lead, Vax talks him out of it. Do you know what math is? And Grog
Mathis?
yep. Um, but in their
Which again is another Cowboys reference for those of you that don't watch the sports ball.
indeed. Um, but so they get down to negotiating for the potions, because the first price listed is literally their entire gold reserve.
Yep.
Because Grog walked in and said, "I have this amount of money and I'm looking to spend."
6,500 gold.
Yes. Um, so Vex pulls out a bunch of knickknacks that she doesn't remember where she got them from. Matt is thinking that it's the tea kettle and dominoes from General Grieg's house.
Yep.
But Laura pops up with, "I have no idea. You literally said knickknacks worth 750 gold."
Which jogs Matt's memory. Oh, those. Which
Yes.
completely amazed me, because even for Desert Winds, if you guys came to me and said, no, you said that it was these, I would go, What were those?
Exactly. Who remembers knickknacks? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're knickknacks. I would assume that on the first shopping outing after that, somebody's going to sell those knickknacks to turn it into gold.
Right.
And just the fact that Matt realized that no, they hadn't, and remembered where they got them from, even though Laura didn't.
Right.
That was awesome.
And I think that they got them in one that we saw in an episode that we saw. I vaguely remember the knickknacks. I vaguely remember him saying that. I think it was during the I think it was during the Craighammer stuff.
It was either in Craghammer or in Whitestone, because he mentioned knickknacks in during the Briarwood escapade.
Shortly before getting the skull.
No, this was while they were down in Whitestone. The skull was in the basement in General Krieg's house.
Okay, okay.
Um,
My timelines got crossed. I need the mending wheel, quick.
but it might even be from there. I don't know. We may have to actually start coordinating with crit roll stats
Yep,
to keep track of
yep.
this stuff. Um, but then another character development moment pops up when Kashaw goes and tries to intimidate the shopkeeper.
Snake oil salesman.
Yes, the cart salesman, as Vex called him.
Yep.
Um,
How's your family? He asks, and it completely takes the shopkeeper aback. With they're fine, fine. They're all
with Grog
fine.
all in
Why
one
do you
piece.
ask?
Yep.
Quite.
But in the end, with the knickknacks, they still end up paying. I believe it was 4,500.
No, it was 5,000.
Oh,
Uh,
5,000. That's right.
Vex was able to knock off 1,500, but they had to do a lot of acrobatics really to get it down to
Yes.
that 5,000 because Zara blew her thaumaturgy, Percy blew a minor illusion,
And
um,
Keyleth did her wind thing.
Keyleth did a wind gust.
You had three characters intimidate because Grog and Kashaw did the verbal, and then Vax just pulled out a dagger and ran it down.
Jabbed it into Grog's arm and
Yeah.
then drug it down his arm.
Oh boy. But
So I mean, yeah, they had to do a lot of acrobatics in order to get that.
and considering the price of the greater and superior potions, that they really got it for a steal.
Yeah, now that was one thing that I didn't actually take a look at was to see if 5,000 was a player's handbook price for that.
Yes, it is. Well, the player's handbook doesn't list the prices on them, but the DMG does.
DMG does, okay.
It's 500, 1,000, 5,000.
Okay.
So they got, let's see, 5,000 for the 10 regulars, plus the 2,000 for the greater, plus another 5,000 for the superior. They got 12,000 gold pieces worth of healing potions for less than half the
Well,
price.
Potion of Superior Healing, according to the DMG, says it's worth 1,600.
Well, so they got even more for their money, or more of a deal on it rather.
Yep.
So,
Oh,
but
wait, no, was it a Supreme?
no, there was a superior, a greater, or one superior, two greater, and 10 regular.
Okay. So yeah, Potion of Superior is 1,600 gold, according to the DMG. And the Supreme Healing, which is even the next level above, is worth 9,350.
What about the greater?
Graders are 241, and standard are 42.
Okay, so I had the prices slightly wrong, but still they did get a pretty good deal.
Oh, they got a damn good deal.
Yeah, but they
I mean,
didn't get any.
it would have been a steal even at like 1350 was one of the cart salesman's counter offers. I mean, they still would have been getting a steal even at that, but
Yeah,
Vex can't let that go.
no, but and one of the biggest gripes that I've heard from players is how little healing these potions actually do.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's not a lot.
but I let in my game, Sweet Suffering, um, I let a lot of that slide on when they're actually making the potions, because
Hmm.
there is supposed to be an actual casting of the spell into the potion,
Right,
um, which I let go because the mechanics wise, it to me doesn't make sense. I understand why Wizards of the Coast have it in there. It just didn't make sense to me,
right.
for the regulars at least.
Yeah, and for the most part, your parties are going to rely on um their clerics, and if Pike were here, being that Vox Machina is level 11, Pike has access to cure mass, like a mass cure wounds, and she can cast it at a sufficiently high level that it would do well more than any of those potions could do on their own, for any one person. But um,
She also has a
she's
limited
not
number
there.
of, yeah, that, and healers are going to have limited number of spell slots,
Right.
and they're going to be using those spell slots for other things as well. So it's a nice little emergency parachute, so to speak, which Matt pointed out. Oh, I'm buying this emergency potion that'll keep me from dying, and it's so expensive, but it does so little. Oh, it's only saving my life.
Right. Right.
So, but after that little debacle, um, Percy wants to stock up on some black powder. The group needs to get a map, so they split up a little bit. Um, with one group going to a bar, while Percy, Vax, and Vex, I believe it was those three, um, ended up going to see Victor.
Yep.
The most hilarious scene in months.
Oh God, it was hilarious.
It,
It was
it opened
absolutely hilarious. I couldn't breathe through the entire scene.
it opened with Liam saying, "I'm going to stand over here and fail to stay in character."
Actually, that was partway through the scene. That was partway
That
through the scene.
well, I say it was, it started with because they had shown the house, which half the roof had been blown off because of Victor's experiments.
And
Uh,
Victor was missing two fingers.
as soon as Percy went into the house and Matt says, you know, uh, you know, er, says, and now you failed to notice while you were outside. Victor is short two fingers on one of his hands, and Vex says, "Yeah, I'm gonna stay outside." And then that's when when Liam said, "Yeah, I'm gonna stand over here and fail to stay in character." Do I need to roll for that? But yeah, with him only having three fingers, Marisha loved that he has character progression,
Yep.
which if you're going to have a reoccurring NPC, that is
What have
something to
they
think
been up
about.
to while we were gone?
Exactly. But Percy's like, yeah, I need to, buy some black powder. Um, Victor's like, oh yes, learn from my mistakes. You can learn three more times. Yes,
Oh
yes.
yes, and then he counts his fingers. One, two, ah, and
And
and then
then
he goes running off and grabs this cask.
this metal cylinder. He comes in and he's like, "And now to open it," and he pulls out a blowtorch.
Which Percy
Every
knocks it out of his hand.
Yes, but everybody's like, "He's going to take a blowtorch to open up the black powder?" No, but it's coffee. Oh, I loved that.
Yep.
It,
Yep.
it that was just hilarious. I could
I
not see straight when that happened.
the other part too is Percy when he came in. This had me rolling more than anything. Um, when Percy comes in, he's like, "Oh, hi, Victor. I'm here to buy some black powder. Do you remember me?" And Victor just emphatically, "No!"
No.
and and it kind of took Taliesin aback because
Yeah.
he was expecting Victor to remember him, and
Oh, a repeat customer. Not many of those.
yeah,
You
don't
would.
don't get many of those.
Yeah.
Um, but we do find out that there is somebody from Vox Machina's past that has been in here recently and has purchased black powder uh, from Victor, and that person that we can gather from the description that we're given is that it was Ripley.
Honestly, I can't think of anybody else that it would be.
No,
That
no, I
there's
mean because she was the one that was taking Percy's research and trying to turn it into a viable thing, which she
indeed.
did apparently.
Yeah, and not to mention in the first visit, Victor flat out says no one has come to buy the black powder before. So that means, to my mind, Victor's been there all those years. It,
Hmm.
it's got to be Percy and Ripley as his only two customers.
Right.
In my mind, they're his only two customers.
I mean, I suppose you could get like mining groups and stuff that may come in to get powder for, you know, blowing open mines and stuff, but
I would think that, if they are a mining company, they're making their own.
true. Or, I mean, they could be using magical means as well, like stone shape. They could employ a druid to use stone shape to open up a tunnel or whatnot. But
Yeah, at least to get started. But so Percy makes the purchases, or purchases, what was it, 3 vials
yeah, he got 3 vials of powder.
of black
Um,
powder, which Victor says 250 gold, and Percy, of course, gives all of his gold to Vex. So he
right.
calls Vex in, and I in my head, Victor's jaw hits the ground, and he does the cartoon tongue roll.
And the heart eyes, the
Yes.
pulsating heart eyes that come in and out.
And then Percy's like, now if my friend comes back, don't let her know we were here. Victor immediately says 50 gold,
50 gold. Yep.
and then Vex winks, and with a persuasion roll of 12,
Yep.
Victor
Which
responds,
which had Matt laughing.
yes.
He was beside himself when he got when she got the 12.
I didn't recognize the voice right away because the camera at that point was focused on Matt. But someone said, DC of 5.
I think that was Liam that said DC 5.
I thought so, but I wasn't certain because I was
Yeah, I'm
laughing
pretty
too
sure it
hard.
was Liam because he was right there cutting up with Laura
Oh yeah,
about how ridiculous all of this was,
yeah,
and so I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Liam that said DC 5.
yeah. All I know is I was laughing too hard to be able to identify voices at that point. But with a signature Vex wink, Victor responds, "For you, I saw nothing."
Yep.
And at the end of the scene, Liam gives up and gives him a standing ovation while everybody else claps. It's awesome.
DM goal right there. Gotta say,
Yes, and
I'm hoping that when we come to the initial story arc of Desert Winds, I get a standing ovation.
well, Usually those are reserved for the conclusion of the story arc, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, Taliesin with the "You're welcome, internet."
Yes, yes.
um, so after that, Vox Machina reconvenes at the bar, um, where Zara is drunk and Keyleth is tipsy. Um, and we have a nice little Grog Kern bromance moment as Grog is trying to gather information on Earthbreaker Groon and all that.
Right.
Um, and I
And
love.
and what was funny is that Kern comes walking into the bar and immediately nopes out,
Yep.
goes
See,
walking right back out, and Grog, makes a perception check. I think it was Grog that made that perception check to see who it was, realizes it's Kern, then goes running out after him and has to make another perception check.
no, it was actually Vax who pointed out to Grog that Kern had
Okay.
walked in. Then Grog ran out and made that perception check to follow Kern into the alley. Um,
And it was kind of awkward, not gonna lie.
it
Really,
was.
really awkward.
It, as you know, Vex implied, it came across like they were making out in the alleyway, or
Yep.
like they were exes or something. It was awesome.
So Grog's asking him, so how have you been? How's things?
Yep. But they just get confirmation that what they view as their options are really what their options are at this point. Um, so um, while Grog and Kern have their little, or after they get done with it with their little bromance moment, and Kern rushes off after realizing he pissed Grog off by mentioning the metal.
Yeah,
Uh,
we got to see a patented. Make sure you watch Travis during the mention of the metal,
yes,
because he does his tweaking out. I'm going psychotic face, which I love. I love that he does that.
I honestly expected him to go, "I would like to rage."
Yep.
I
I
was
think we
just
were
waiting
all
for that.
expecting it.
Yes, but he reins himself in. Um, and he goes back inside, and Zara and Vec try to set Keyleth straight regarding the Vax and Cash. Uh,
Love triangle.
yeah, that's going on, and Vax butters up Cash and then locks himself in a closet. Nice little pratfall comedy moment.
Yep. And then we go to break, and we come back kind of from that point. Um,
And just to pause for a moment, this is the second piece of artwork that I mentioned in the introduction. You may recognize it as seen from last week's, or from the previous episode, episode 42, when Keyleth does her, what was that, the name of that spell? With the fire.
oh, Firestorm.
Yes, when she does Firestorm. Um, excellent work, artists. I have to say, the art that I see coming from the Critters community is just amazing.
It is so
So,
awesome.
so thank you guys for sharing it with all of us as well. But yes, back to the episode. After the break, they decide to go up to the. I believe it was called the Platinum Palisade, but
Uh,
I don't
yeah.
remember.
Well, I think it's Palisade
Oh
because
well,
it's
yeah.
because it's a palace.
Okay, that makes more sense because a palisade is just a straight up fort.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is basically it's a palace and a temple all rolled into one.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they go up the mountain and they see the town and village that's embedded in the side of the mountain. And after a short aside where they confirm or clarify the honorifics for High Lord Vord. They get led into an audience chamber where they talk to High Lord Vord himself. Scanlan starts out the conversation by asking how much knowledge of the dragon attacks they have. Vord sort of communes for a moment.
Yeah, he talks about a dream that he had,
Yeah.
which, as dreams are, kind of cryptic, but um,
But he comes back and says that it's not the work of Bator or Tiamat. Now, I have to admit, even as a DM and as a someone who has played D&D for coming up on 25 years now, um, well 22 years, excuse me, to be specific, I had not heard of Bator before, but he is the dragon of the Nine Hells.
see, now, the way that Matt explains it, though, is that Bator is actually a level of the Nine Hells. It's not actually the name of a dragon.
No, he is a dragon and he rules a level within the Nine Hells.
Okay.
Um, but it's one of those levels that is set aside for the followers of dragons and dragonborn that follow that religion. If they fail to get into the celestial realms, um, but it essentially he says that these dragons are working on their own. Um, the the team tries to get some assistance from Vord and the and their army, but Vord is adamant about staying in Vasselheim. Does give them uh, use, I guess, or loans them one of the champions by the name of Udar. And during Udar's introduction, Kima just walks up and bitch
She
slaps him.
slams him out. Yeah, she slams him out of the way.
And the description that Matt says completely dents his shield with the force of her hit.
I thought it
Now,
was his armor because Taliesin made a joke that after all of this happened, oh, by the way, Udar is standing over in this corner, stuck in his armor because it's dented in.
yeah, Taliesin mentioned that, but the exact phrasing that Matt used was, bending and denting the shield as, he's thrown to the side. Matt specifically mentioned the shield.
Okay.
Um, but just in case you guys aren't aware, and I'm probably being overly redundant here, Kima is a halfling doing this to what
He
apparently
was a
is a
human.
human.
Yep,
So
he was a human.
that just makes it even more visually hilarious. But Kima, no, this is my home turf. I'm the one that's gonna go. Um,
Which Vord, he takes offense a little bit. Says that she needs to learn discipline and everything.
yes,
That she's reckless. Which Keyleth then pipes in and says Kima's recklessness is exactly what Vox Machina needs right now.
yes. Um, but so Vord, eventually acquiesces, um, and they, discuss a little bit further, trying to get some more background information on these vestiges. Um, Vord admits that he doesn't know specifics, so Vox Machina just asked for some descriptions, and Vord speaks of 12 possible relics. Which, now that we've talked a little bit about the relics that Tiberius was after, I don't remember. Again, I don't remember what specific episode it was because I'm just now remembering this. Tiberius was after 12 relics.
I thought he was only after 8.
No, he mentioned 12 several times.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I very well could be. Because, like I said, I'm just now remembering this. But they've mentioned 12 relics before.
Yeah, I'm a bad critter, and I haven't watched the earlier episodes more than once. So, um, these episodes that we're doing here, I've watched 2 and 3 times. So,
Indeed. I admit, I'm a bad critter too. I'm in the same boat. But I will go back and rewatch those and correct myself next time if I am incorrect. Um, but either way, Zara asks about the legends of the last siege of Vasselheim, which launches Vord into the entire creation story. And the reason I say it that particular way, you'll see in just a moment with with Kima's reaction. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but he launches into the creation story, and it appears that Vasselheim is believed to be the first city. Um,
I'm gonna bring this up real quick because I was watching it on Friday with Tony and another critter.
mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of for the life of me right now.
So
Um,
whoever you are, we apologize. We're not.
yep, I
It's
will
just poor
remember it
memory.
and give
That's
you
all.
credit after the fact. Um, but he had mentioned that this creation story seemed to be kind of borrowed a little bit from Guild Wars. And it's been years since I've played Guild Wars, but after thinking about it for a little bit, yeah, it is a little bit borrowed from Guild Wars, but I still think it's cool.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, there are a lot of real world religions that have a very similar creation story for our
Hmm.
world. Um, Essentially, before the gods came and shaped the world, it was just the four elements battling for dominance. Um, the gods came and settled things down a little bit. Didn't quite remove them, but created, for lack of a better term, the lesser races. The humans, the elves, the dwarves. And at the end of the first age, the first war happened uh, essentially against the elemental titans, and it
Right.
ended with the creation of the veils that separate the elemental planes, which still stand today and are guarded by the Ashari. And that's also when the first of these vestiges were created. During the second age, the gods began to sort of have a schism go on. They sort of formed two different factions, with the new faction sort of turning to the darker ways. Um, and Matt borrowed a little bit from Greyhawk, I believe, with introducing with Vord stating that it was these evil or dark gods that introduced the arcane arts.
Right. Arcane magic.
Yes. And the reason I say that is, primarily because Ariadne is in a character in our Desert Winds game,
Yep.
is a follower of Saint Cuthbert, a god within the Greyhawk setting. That one of their um, one of their sub orders believes that arcane magic is evil, and
Yep.
so that caught my attention there. Um, but eventually, this led to the Second War, which is referred to as the War of Divergence. This is where they finished out the 12 possible vestiges, and at the end of the fighting, the gods decide, well, we're going to watch this world from afar, leading into the Third Age. Um, Vax sort of questions, why everything is so vague as far as these vestiges are. Anything with that much power, I wouldn't want it falling into anybody else's hands.
Right.
So just another layer of security. Um,
Well, and Ford also, kind of mentioned that these artifacts may have the ability to protect themselves as well.
Indeed, sort of like the One Ring
Yep.
from Lord of the Rings. If anyone doesn't get that reference, which by now, if you don't, go read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Don't come back until you have. I'm
Yes,
joking.
we'll see you in 7 years.
Yes. um, Keyleth asks about, if the Ashari would know anything about them, and of course, Vord, although he deals uh, with divine magic and divine knowledge and that sort of thing, he has no idea what the Ashari do or don't know.
Right, and he
So,
says, I'm not a scholar of the Ashari's knowledge keeping practices. He's like, I have no idea.
indeed. But he does provide some insight into dragons, their mentalities and why the chromatic dragons might be following, Thordak. Um, and Zara brings up a good question as to why only Vasselheim survived. You know, now coming into its third age, or the third age of the world. And Ford, responds with, "Only here are we focused."
Yep.
So,
They don't leave. They Vord says if we were to come follow you on your quest, even a portion of us, he says, were to follow you on your quest against this ancient dragon, there are other evils, not necessarily the same one that we're attempting to fight now, but there are other evils that would sweep in and try to take advantage.
indeed. At that point, um,
At that
Kima
point, Scanlan
gets
tries to ask a question
yes, and
of
Kima's
Vord.
yes, and Kima gets like, "Oh my God, can we go already?"
I'm tired of listening to him talk.
Yes, best paladin ever. Just saying.
Ari's kind of like Kima in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but I think she would have been patient and sat through the
Yeah,
entire.
she would have been. She would have been.
But yeah, Kima and Ari are a lot alike. Um, so the Kima or the conversation finally ends. Kima escorts them out of the audience chamber, dismisses the guards that are like right there at the door, and then has a little fangirl moment. That was cute.
Yep. Yep. Oh my God, you guys, I've missed you. And she hugs everybody except for Kashaw and Zara because
Because
she
of course
doesn't
she
know
doesn't
him.
know him. And Grog shows off his beard. Oh, excuse me, hiccups. But yeah, Grog shows off his beard, and introductions are made. And then before they leave, Percy outlines their options. Um, I know we skipped over it with Scanlan or skipped over Scanlan's questions, but he was asking about um, faster means of travel, and the Ford points out the airship. So their options come to going to the Cobalt Reserve, finding Osysa's mate, checking on the Ashari, talking with Earthbreaker Groon,
Oh my
and
gosh, this is a lot of stuff the cast is saying.
yes, and getting an airship. And I think they approached it in a very organized, very well thought out manner. In that, they decide, well, you know, the Earthbreaker
Vax
Groon is
says,
right here.
yeah,
Uh,
Vax says if we start at this temple and we do a spiral outward, let's take care of whatever is closest to us first. And they're like Earthbreaker
Earthbreaker
Groon.
Groon, followed by getting the airship to visit the Ashari, and then going over to the western area for the Cobalt Reserve and Osysa's mate. So they head over to talk to Earthbreaker Groon. And on the way, nice little aside between Keyleth and Kashaw, as Keyleth tries to hook Kashaw up with Kima.
How did I miss that?
So, it may not have appeared so. I had to think about this for a little moment. What happened was Keyleth, goes over to Kashaw and starts talking to him about what he thinks of Kima. And Kashaw has been everybody's been walking on eggshells around Kashaw because of what happened between Kashaw and Keyleth with the kiss. Keyleth is like, so what do you think of Kima? You two she seemed to know you, or at least have some insight into him. And Kashaw's like, no, she really didn't like me, and that's a normal reaction. Everybody else is like, hey, I'm a great guy, and I just don't get it. And it took me a little while, and I had to think about it. I have done similar things in high school. And at one point in this episode, Marisha had mentioned, I never went through this even in high school. I don't know what's going on or how to deal with this. And in high school, I was in that type of situation. And I was like, yeah, I tried what Keyleth tried. And it turned out the exact same way. She was trying to hook Kashaw up with Kima just to get...
I'm going to have to watch that section again.
Yeah.
Because I didn't catch that part of it at all.
You really have to keep an eye on it with the mindset of Keyleth being a high school sophomore or junior. And then it makes perfect sense. But, so they get to... and I just mind blanked on what that area is called. With the fighting ring and Cord's area.
It's like the
Proving Grounds.
The Proving Grounds, yeah.
So they get to the Proving Grounds, and to Grog's surprise, the Dawn Marshals recognize him as the champion and gives him respect. Little humorous.
Little humorous Grog moment there.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
So they go in to talk with Earthbreaker Groon, and he is sitting meditating in the middle of a pit that has a sandy floor.
4 foot deep.
Yeah, it's a 4-foot drop into a sandy area where Earthbreaker Groon is sitting in the center meditating, and the description is just a very stereotypical monk description, and it was perfect. It is immediately apparent that Groon knows what's going on, and really why the group came. But of course, as monks do, they want to test those who are seeking audience. So Groon asks Grog, where do you find your strength? And the first time he's asked this, he thinks about it. He thinks about it. And gets knocked on his ass for it. Grog, as he's getting up, he's asked again, and he responds with his anger,
Mm-hmm.
and is knocked down again for it. And then Grog responds again, my friends? Sort of more asking than telling.
Right.
So Groon is like, oh, you're friends, huh? So fine then. Choose 2 of them. And Grog,
do they have to be here? Was his first question.
Yeah, and of course, Groon just responds by looking at his people and asking, "Which of you will bleed for your friend?" Grog answers the question of choosing by saying Pikes, Vax, and Scanlan. And that threw me for a loop. Pike was a given. With their backstory, that was fully expected.
Right.
With Vax, I was like, oh, that's a bit. I didn't see it coming. I can see it because Vax is always challenging Grog. You know,
I mean,
helping him grow.
I think Grog recognizes that even though he and Vax
Butt heads.
have their differences, they butt heads.
But they
Grog
are friends.
recognizes that in the heat of battle, Vax has his back.
Indeed. And Scanlan. Where did that come from? Like, I can understand.
They're brothel buddies.
Okay,
They're brothel buddies. They've
Grog.
probably, I mean, they've shared a lot of stories that we never see camera time
Okay.
for.
Okay, but at the same time, Grog knows how Scanlan fights. Grog knew this was turning into a fight. There was no way he didn't see this was a fight. Scanlan is not a fighter. He's a lover. He admits it himself.
Hmm.
That's what threw me for a loop.
He actually admits it earlier in this episode too,
Oh yeah. Oh
when
yeah.
he's introducing himself to Zara
Yes.
or
Yes, he does.
or to Kashaw rather.
I thought he was on Kashaw's team. I'll have to go back and look to confirm. Either way. But I think at the same time, though, it's
He would
a.
have been because that was the carpet fiasco.
Yeah. Either way. Um, that threw me for a loop because, you know, seeing that it's a fight coming, Percy or Vex or even Keyleth. But at the same time, now that you've brought up that they're drinking buddies, it does make sense to me. You know,
Hmm.
now that I've had a few moments to think about it in those terms, he was naming his friends
Right.
in order of importance. So
Right.
yeah, I get it now. I get it now.
Well, and I mean, you've also got Scanlan as the bard. I mean, he's giving the inspiration, he's doing the buffing, things like that. So from a combat metagaming standpoint, it makes sense to pick your bard. Um,
For a 3-on-1 fight, regardless of the unknown at that point in time, the unknown that Grun was, I would have gone with. Honestly, I would have gone with Keyleth if in a metagaming
right.
situation, because the way the druids are currently set up, with as many times as she is capable of wild shaping,
Oh yeah, she's a damage soak.
she is as much, if not more, of a sponge than even Grun is. Um, and I say that going into the fight, it turns out Grun is using legendary actions, which means he has to be at least or more than level 20.
I couldn't find anywhere in the DMG where it said what level you have to be in order for legendary actions to occur.
It doesn't, but since that episode, I actually sent a direct message to Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, and they confirmed that it is an idea that they have and have actually talked to Matt about. Um, and I don't know in what capacity. Let me throw out that disclaimer. It may just be an idea that they were BSing about because Chris Perkins and Matt do talk.
Right.
um, but it's just it is something that would happen in the epic levels or prestige levels,
Okay.
levels above 20.
Okay.
Um, so you know, Grog, Vax, and Scanlan are getting their asses handed to them.
On a platter.
Yes. Um, until Grog tries to drop Craven Edge and pull out his flaming warhammer. Now, because Craven Edge is an intelligent weapon, um, in order to drop it in the middle of battle, he had to make a
Wisdom save.
wisdom save in order to keep his own willpower in check. And he failed. But
Which leads to another funny Grog moment after Matt tells him, you need to pick up Craven Edge again.
yeah, Matt's exact words were, "This is the weapon of a real warrior."
Oh,
And
you're right. You're right. It
Grog
is.
like,
Yep.
absolutely. Or you're right. Either way.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is. It totally is. It absolutely is.
Yep. But Groon recognizes that little battle that's going on within Grog and pulls oh, what's, I don't know the exact wording I'm looking for here, but he pulls a gimmick that essentially ends the fight by isolating himself and Grog.
He does like I want to say like a temporal shift kind of thing. Pulls him out into another plane or time or something real quick.
Yeah, it just speaks to him mind to mind, essentially.
But I mean, it also blocked off Grog's vision to everything else but Groon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Matt described it as everything goes black and the only thing you can see is Groon.
And he also said, but you don't see his mouth moving, but you can hear his voice in your mind.
Yes. At which point, Groon asks him again, "Where do you find your strength?" And without hesitating this time, Grog answers very emphatically, "My friends." And the fight is done. Um, the uh, short little discussion after the fight, Groon gives them information on two of the vestiges. The Titanstone Knuckles, which, by the way, Adron wants.
I have heard your plea,
Yes.
and the gods are considering it.
Um, unfortunately, that particular set of vestiges were either stolen or lost, and the whereabouts are unknown. However, the Deathwalker's ward, the leathers of the Raven Queen.
Now, I thought this was interesting. Real quick, I thought this was interesting that Matt mentions the leathers of the Raven Queen because I believe it was in last episode, right as they were getting ready to end the episode, and Matt was asking them, I'm just trying to get ideas for what you guys are wanting to do so that I can start preparing and stuff. Percy mentioned, or Taliesin mentioned, I wanted to go look into the Raven Queen, go in and look at the Temple of the Raven Queen or whatever. I don't remember his exact phrasing, but Taliesin did mention the Raven Queen at the end of the previous episode.
Absolutely. And I believe that particular vestige may be meant for Percy, based on that.
Right, because it sounds like these are going to be epic level items that each of the party is going to have use of.
Yes.
And with no Pike currently, you had 12 vestiges. We have 7 party members. Well, counting Pike if Zara and Kashaw do not continue on. So I mean, there's plenty of wiggle room there for each of the party members to have two vestiges.
Yes. Um, I think the assumption is that with Ashley's work schedule, they can't count on Pike being there.
Right.
And
And I mean,
since.
it's the smart thing to do as a DM. Just
Oh, yeah.
count on her not being there, and then we'll improv her coming in if we have to.
Oh, yeah. And with Will and.
Mary.
Yeah, Will and Mary. Sorry, I wanted to say Margaret. I am so. I apologize so badly.
Smack, smack.
Yes. But with Will and Mary being guests and no guarantee in how long they'll be there, couldn't really count them guaranteed either. So with the 12 that leave or with the 12 vestiges and 6 remaining players, it makes sense. They would each have to if they got all 12.
Right.
Um, but the leathers of the Raven Queen, also known as the Deathwalker's Ward, lay in a ruin or in the ruins of a tomb. This I wasn't quite clear on. Is it just outside Vasselheim or a little bit of ways from Vasselheim? I know it's at the bottom of a lake.
Yeah, that I didn't catch.
So we'll need to see if we can find some of the mapmaker critters. See if they can help us out there. But then, what has to be the best ship moment for Vaxileth, at least, after they exit the pit, Keyleth rushes up to Vax's side, hugs him, gives him a nice little peck on the lips in public, and then heals him.
And Vax, I'm going to say, also gets his revenge for when Kiki got super super sick, drunk,
Mm-hmm.
and she hurled because he hurls right back.
Yes. Fortunately, she made her dex saving throw, so she got just out of the way. But still, that was hilarious. Um, and that's where the episode ended. So, a lot happened. Um, for those of you watching, I had 6 page or 8 pages of notes. I had 8 pages of notes that I had to condense into 4 pages of the outline for this episode.
Yep.
Oh, so many details popping up. But moving over into our wrap up. Um, big day for ships. Really big day
Yeah,
for
we
ships.
we had the sinking of cashless.
Yes. But the character interaction between Vexalia and Kashaw might maybe a one night stand in there.
Maybe.
Um, Obviously, because they're just guests, I don't see it becoming anything permanent or canon.
Right.
But still, it's a lot of fun. And then, of course, as uh, a lot of people are insinuating, there is still the Vexalia Percy ship, which I've decided to call Vexy. Um,
Hmm.
Primarily because, you know, and I can see it. Percy, being a noble born, is used to handling his own money, but he's giving it all to Vex. That
Right. I don't see that as the basis of a relationship
no,
personally, but I'm
no,
also not the type that is super big into shipping.
true.
It just I it kind of goes beyond me.
Oh, one thing about Percy is he is, and he stated this in episode 42. He is willing to sell himself, be the evil, in order to make sure that his people get the good.
Mhm.
Um, So that strikes me as with somebody with that mindset, they're going to be more reserved. So if that is a ship that's going to happen, if, and this is a huge if, it's going to be one of the much longer term development one.
Hmm.
Um, but then again, Vex sort of has her little crush on Jarrett, so we'll see how
Right.
those ships go. I do have a few predictions as far as the guests go, though.
Okay. Shoot.
So my prediction is that we're going to be seeing Kashaw and Zara for at least one more episode, maybe two or three.
Yeah, I was thinking about 2 episodes would be probably right. Um, and my clue there is the way that in character Zara and Kashaw were talking.
Yes.
Um, Especially and I mean you even had Vax kind of party to this as well, where um, after they're talking with Osysa, Zara says, well, you can count on our aid or whatever. Uh, we we will join you. And Vax is like, we, does that mean that, that we've won your support? And they go into that moment from there. But that was kind of my clue that, hey, maybe they're going to be sticking around for at least a little while longer. And then later, you have when Kashaw and Zara are talking, and then Vex subsequently reads their lips. Um, they say we'll do this for as long as we can, unless it's no longer interesting to us or we find something better, and then we'll just leave.
Yeah. I can't help but wonder if they are planning on possibly one of them, dying because of the way they said that, or at least are acknowledging the possibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Don't say the D word until the D word happens. I'm gonna
Yes.
call Laura out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna quote Laura right there. Don't say the
No,
D
that was
word until
Grog.
the D word.
That was Travis that said that.
Oh, well,
Because
I think Laura
because
has said it at one point too, though.
yeah, the origin of that is when Trinket
Ah,
fell
yep,
to zero, and she was like, "Oh my God, is he dead? Is he dead?" And Travis was like, "Is it time for the D word? Don't use the D word unless it's time for the D word."
right. Okay, yep. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna pull right there. Don't
Yeah,
don't say the D word until the D word actually happens.
yeah, I'll agree with you there. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm guessing, at least one more, possibly two or three. But that brings us to this week's DM corner. Now there's been some confusion as to how alchemy kits actually work and if they can be used to make things other than alchemist fire and healing potions. Um, now Kalia and I were talking a little bit about this before we started recording the episode, um, and the answer is yes. The alchemist kit can be used if you're a trained alchemist. Can be used to create most, not all, but most physical effects of a spell. How you'll need to go about this: one, you'll have to have all of the components for the spell. Two, if you go by the rules in the DMG, you'll have to spend experience in creating any potion. In my game, in Sweet Suffering, I don't use an experience growth. I have a story growth. They complete certain things or advance the story or character develop certain things, and then they level up.
Well, and the experience cost actually that was a big part of I'm going to call it 3.x because
Yes.
it was in 3, it was in 3.5. So 3.x, that was a big thing, and that was not just with crafting potions, that was crafting magical items as well.
Yes. Um, but that never made any sense to me because the way I view experience points, those represented your memories. So to lose experience points, you are essentially losing your memories. So why would you lose your memories in creating a potion or a magic item?
Not
It never
necessarily
made sense to
memories.
me.
I think XP is a part of your soul. So, I mean, you are putting a large portion of yourself and your life energy into this, more so for magical weapons than for potions.
Oh, that's
But
understandable, but again, I don't understand. I mean, yes, you are putting a piece of yourself into it, but I see the soul as a living, growing thing. You're it you may be putting a piece of yourself into these items, but it's not going to um, it's not going to be one of those things that is irreparably damaged to where you would permanently lose these experience points. But that's just my take on it. It is a good way to measure out to make sure that the party isn't sitting there and spending, X number of months in game just building up these magical items.
right,
Um, so for me, what I do is I make the dice check or the difficulty check higher, as to compensate. Um, so the mechanics of it is you gather these items, you pay the costs for the items because you're going to need the glass vials, you're going to need the spell components,
hmm,
and then you're going to need the actual spell. If you guys watched my last episode of Sweet Suffering, there was no spell cost as far as the basic healing potions went. For a basic healing potion, for me, aspirin. There's a healing potion. But um, for anything stronger, you're going to have somebody essentially push the spell into the potion or magic item. Um, and then you're going to have the alchemist make a dice roll to see if they captured that spell correctly. Um,
right.
but the higher the level of the spell, obviously, the more difficult it is to capture. But then again, it may be worth it to make a potion of invisibility, or a potion of expeditious retreat, or a potion of misty step.
Right.
So the alchemy kits can be incredibly useful. Keep in
Well,
mind. Go ahead.
and looking at the equipment, you know, it says, just taking a look at like alchemist supplies, because I don't actually see an alchemy set here. Um, but I see like the alchemist supplies. It says this is a special tool that includes the items needed to pursue a craft or trade.
Now, the reason why you're not going to see an alchemist kit in 3.5 is because so much of the
Well,
quote
this is
unquote,
this is fifth edition that I'm
or
looking at
not, I meant 5th edition. I don't know why I said 3.5. In
because I
3
mentioned it earlier.
Probably. In 3.5 there is an actual alchemist kit. In 5th edition it's alchemy supplies because so much of it is um, used up every time you make these potions and such.
Okay.
Um, because the supplies includes the little burner. It's going to include some basic vials and all of that. And once you've created the potion, you've used up the burner. You've used up the components. You've used up the vials. So you have to
Okay.
buy them again. It's not like a thief's tools where, yeah, I've unlocked the door, but I still have my lockpick set. Because they've all been used. However, trying to create all of this stuff, or trying to create these potions without the alchemist's supplies, is going to raise the DC. Primarily because the alchemist supplies are specialized. If you're trying to make it over a hearth fire, you're not going to be able to control the heat as readily as with the
Right.
alchemist burner.
Right.
Also, keep in mind, creating these potions takes time. Again, going back to my example in Sweet Suffering, I had a character that was creating basic health potions. It took him 6 hours. Granted, I fast forwarded through a lot of that time, but that was time out of the day when they could have been down in the dungeon. And if your players are in a dungeon and want to set up their alchemy set during a rest, it better be a long rest, and they better be doing something small, because for the bigger the spell, the longer it takes to brew.
And also, you're in a dungeon, presumably it's not safe, then you start getting into
Exactly.
wandering monsters, DMs.
Exactly. So I hope we clarified that little question.
One other thing I'm going to add to this real quick.
Okay.
It's not widely talked about, but D&D Adventurers League has, especially in like their players' books, it is listed in the player's handbook. Um, and I don't have the section right off the top of my head, but you have downtime days. Now, DMs, you can actually award your players a certain number of downtime days as completing part of a story arc, or per session, whatever. If you're going to do it per session, I'd say no more than 1 day per session that you play, because downtime builds up pretty quick. In Adventurers League, per module that you complete, you typically get like 5 downtime days. So in an ongoing tabletop campaign where you're home brewing and stuff, maybe a day or two per session. But using downtime, players can actually spend their downtime, spend a little bit of gold in creating potions, learning skills, languages, learning how to use a set of tools, things like that. And there are entire sections in the DMG related to what you can spend your downtime days on. As my character is a charlatan, one of my favorite things to do is roll on the carousing table. What kind of trouble did I get into this time around?
Indeed.
So just something else to look at, DMs, as far as this question goes. Maybe apply downtime days to using with these artisans' tools and kits.
Absolutely. Your players will amaze you with what they come up with. Um, but that brings us to the end of our episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch us each week, and send in any of your D&D questions to us using DM's Corner. If you want to submit art, please contact any of the hosts that we have here on the show. If you want to contact me via Twitter, I am at AKIVADAPHYDD.
I'm at Cosmic Candy.
And we hope you enjoy, and until next week, sit back, relax, and enjoy your game.
May all your hits be crits.